So it's usually just kind of random at this point. If some doesn't sound right, just take it out. And I'm gonna go to my 32s real quick, draw all the ones right before the 2/4. That sounds better. And you also want kind of a 16th bar pattern. So like every other cell can be a hat basically. So it's even better when you add 16th and 32 triplets onto these hats and sometimes replacing them. You can get kind of a more funky rhythm by doing this. So that's every other. That's good. Let's do that one and add a couple more. So instead of doing these things out of random, I'm just gonna erase those and program this 16 bar loop. Make this a little bit faster, copy and paste. There. So now what I'm going to do is, like I said, go in and fill in 32 triplets. For every 2 that you see, and if you have a third, you want to take off 1. It'll give it a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more pace. But you're also giving your hats a little bit of a break because you don't want to overload your listener. See how that was kind of offset back there? In order to fix this, you want to see how this hat is kind of smudged up against that. We're going to take that off. So just move it over. So that's a better way to get your hats more in motion. So I'm just going to copy my clap over. I was listening to it and it didn't sound too great. So anyways, I'm going to go back to the drum rack. I'm going to go to my low kick. I got kind of off on a tangent, but it's good that we did. I'm going to set my spread to 40. I'm going to right click, copy value to siblings. So that's 11 different siblings. I'm going to set my release time to probably around 832 milliseconds. Right click, copy to siblings. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our clap snare and actually I'm just going to group these. I'm going to go into my cells. My chain actually. This is where you can group things a little bit easier. So I'm going to grab my clap, my hats, my snares, and my shaker, conga, ethnic, and ride out. I'm going to group those. Right click, group. Now what I'm going to do with this group cell, it still links with all the ins and outs and returns, hopefully. If I can see that. Maybe. I want to make sure that each return chain has its own sets of in and outs. Nope, it didn't copy over. Okay, so we're basically going to do this manually. I'm going to go to my clap 1. I'm going to turn on filter. I'm going to go to high pass 24. I'll bring it down about 521. Hit the sample a few times and then see where the clap fits in. If it's a little bit too high passed, I'll bring it down. But if it sounds right, then I'll just leave it in. Sounds a little bit too high passed for me. Sounds a little bit better. Go to my snare, turn on filter, high pass 24. Let's see where our snare hits. That's a little bit better for a snare 2. Turn on high pass 24 for our filter. See where the snare hits. That's perfect. That's 700. Now, I know hats are a little bit trickier, so I'm just going to set it to high pass and set it to about 1.24 kilohertz. That sounds fine. For the hat 2, we're going to do the exact same thing as all of last time, except see where it lands, push it up a little bit more. If it still sounds the same but you're pushing up the frequencies, that's good, because that means it'll, whatever sample or echo or effect you have on this drum set, even if it's just a little bit compressor, these sounds really do get out and kind of fuck up your mix. So it's best to push up your frequencies as high as you can get them, as well as not diminishing the hat's overall sound. This has a little bit of fragments still stuck in about 700 or 800 hertz. That sounds a little bit better. It's at 1.18 kilohertz, so that should be fine for that hat. For the shaker, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because we're going to use a band pass. We're going to capture lower to mid type of sound for the shaker. Actually, let's just set this to high pass 24, bring that down to probably about 329. That sounds pretty good. Conga, we're going to take this to our filter, high pass 24, bring that down to probably about 425. A little bit higher. That sounds better. 868 hertz, that's fine. The ethnic tambourine has a lot of harmonics and low ends, so we're going to basically put a high pass 24 filter on there, set it to 745. Sounds a little bit better, so let's set that to 1.18 kilohertz. Let's bring that down to probably about 784. That sounds good, so I'll leave it at that. For the crash, we're going to set this to a high pass filter 24, bring that to about 2.29. That sounds good. So now that we have everything sounding good, I'm going to, and we've kind of created a loop, I'm going to add in our ethnic tambourines and shakers on 4s, basically. The 4s allow us to create more dynamics and rhythm. Let's set it to 8s because I work better in 8s. Okay. Trying to copy this and it's not coming. So I'm just copying and pasting all around. That can kind of be a little bit too repetitive, so I'm just gonna leave it in for every other 2-3 basically, or 1-2. Okay, so we got our kicks. I'm going to then make a new clip and boost and copy these kicks up to the next drum cell. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of a loop, I'm going to go to my sends and I'm going to close the chain. And for the sends, we're going to listen to the loop and see what needs a little bit of reverb or echo, you know, kind of measure it by listening.